This is a steam stack, and they're dotted all over Manhattan. Nowhere on Earth are they more common. In fact, New York is one of the few cities in the world that relies on steam to heat its buildings, including some of its tallest, most iconic towers.
Our customers are behind us. All the skyscrapers, the Empire State Building. If you look, the UN is right up the river a little bit. You have the Chrysler Building. They get the steam directly from Con Edison.
I think steam's an old technology. It works. It's been around. Technology's coming up to make it more efficient.
This is our core business, is to make reliable, cheap steam for the largest city in the United States. So Philadelphia, Boston, all those steam systems together don't even equal the size of this.
This is the story of how steam shaped New York City.
It's horrendous.
Yeah, the orange.
It's so ugly.
I hate the orange.
Yeah.
The first thing I noticed was the steam.
Really loud and a lot of smoke coming out of it.
Well, and I've definitely heard people that don't live here be like, oh, those things smell so gross.
Yeah.
And then I walk through it and I'm like, does it? Am I just used to this? Like, it doesn't smell that bad. Like, there are worse smells.
Bright orange and white stripes, steam billowing out of dozens of feet above the city's streets. These stacks should stand out. But for the average New Yorker, they're just part of everyday life.
And it blends in.
I honestly didn't pay attention.
Yeah, wasn't really paying attention. Yeah.
First time, yeah.
So what are these mysterious pipes actually for?
I'm not sure, you know, I don't really pay attention. I just go from point A to point B.
Just to release underground, like, pressure, right? Like gases underground.
Yeah, like to release water vapor. I mean, by the smell of it, you know it's not just water.
Well, it's obviously Con Edison is working on something down below, which overheats, especially them street tops that blow up when it's too hot out here, when too much electricity is being used.
Like heat ventilation or something?
I think that's just coming from underground, the heat underground, you know? I don't think it's anything that has to do with chemicals or anything like that.
The answer? Manhattan runs on steam. 27 billion pounds of it per year, in fact. Steam moves through vast networks of underground pipes, providing the island's buildings with the energy they need for heating and cooling. These pipes allow pressurized steam to escape, directing it away from passers-by.
I didn't know that. I just thought it was like water.
I think it's doing nothing but sitting there.
I remember learning a lot about energy, but steam is never something that we spoke about.
I looked it up. Like when I first moved here, I was afraid to walk through it and inhale it. Because it's like, is that like noxious gas or something that you're supposed to avoid? And I found that it was it wasn't harmful per se.
But
and I was like, all right, that's all I needed.
To know.
I feel like steam's a byproduct of a lot of the other energy sources that we use. So if you can harvest that as a byproduct, I mean, it's free, more sustainable, and I assume it's more environmentally friendly.
Without the steam system, New York would look quite different. The city's tallest buildings would need a separate space to store truckloads of coal. They would also need chimneys, spewing out clouds of soot high above the city. This was Manhattan before the introduction of steam. Before the dawn of the 19th century, the wood-burning fireplace served as the primary source of heat for most New Yorkers. Later, coal became the fuel of choice. But coal was hard to transport and proved to be a cumbersome, inconvenient way to heat a home. But as the city grew, it needed a more efficient and manageable energy source. In 1876, experimental inventor and engineer Birdsill Holly of Lockport, New York, stumbled upon a new way to heat his home: steam. This new source of heat was not just novel, it was efficient. Soon he extended his system to heat the homes of his neighbors. Lockport, New York, now ran on steam. This success made headlines and caught the eye of New York City developers like Wallace Andrews. At the time, New York City was in the midst of the early skyscraper boom, and with new heights came new challenges. Taller buildings with substantially more floor space required bigger, bulky, coal-powered heating systems that took up valuable space within the structure. Steam would be the solution. So Andrews and engineer Charles Edward Emery licensed Holley's concept and began their work. Andrews founded the New York Steam Company. Then in 1880, the company began construction. Its first steam-generating plant, complete with 48 boilers, was built where the World Trade Center complex stands today. Then on March 3, 1882, the company served its first customer, the 9-story United Bank building on Wall Street. By 1936, New York's steam system was the largest in the country, with 65 miles of main pipes and 6 steam-generating plants serving 2,500 buildings. In 1954, gas and electric provider Consolidated Edison acquired the New York Steam Company and has been responsible for the city's steam ever since.
Now, they call Consolidated Edison for a reason. They consolidated all these different companies, New York Illuminating, the steam system, and they all came underneath one umbrella. It is now currently the largest steam system in the entire United States, and one of the largest in the world.
Today, steam's journey begins at one of the city's steam production facilities. Here, machines more than 10 stories high generate more than 3 million pounds of steam per hour.
We are here at East River Generating Station. It's in Lower Manhattan, around 14th Street and the FDR Drives. This station provides about 52 to 55% of all the steam in Manhattan, and it supplies all the electricity south of 36th Street down to the tip of the Battery. You have 105 miles of piping that are underneath the streets. You have all these plants that feed this 105 miles of pipework. If you look on the northern fringe, it's 96th Street on the west side and all the way down to the tip of the Battery, and the full width of Manhattan. If you look at all the big customers that we have, they could equal up to about 3.2 million customers, so people that we supply steam to.
The majority of customers use steam for heat, but it does serve other purposes.
Heat, hot water, obvious. Air conditioning, you mean you use steam to make an air conditioner? Well, there are different types of machines out there that take that steam and they can convert it into chilled water. Sterilization, you can see how important that is in hospitals. And humidification, you have a lot of laundromats too, and that need steam for steam cleaning.
The plant needs around 125,000 gallons of water per hour to provide the city with the steam it needs.
We need water for steam. Heat the water up, it comes steam. But we need it to be pristine. There can't be any minerals in that steam. So we actually take New York City drinking water, which is probably one of the cleanest drinking waters in the world, and we purify it.
Once the water is purified, it is directed to a boiler.
Mostly we burn gas here. That gas comes out and there's a ball of fire inside this big box with a big boiler. And that ball of fire is probably about 2,500 to 3,000 degrees. And you have tubes on the inside surface of the big box or the big boiler. And inside there you have water.
It's here that water becomes steam. That steam leaves the boiler and goes through a network of piping to any one of Con Edison's customers. On a cold winter day, Nearly 10 million pounds of steam at 350 degrees Fahrenheit flow through the pipes each hour.
13,222,000 pounds per hour of steam is the maximum capacity you can generate with all those assets. Now you say to yourself, well, you don't use all that 13 million at once. You need to have a margin. So you usually, in the coldest time of the year, you're probably in the 8, maybe 9 million pounds per hour of steam.
3 of Con Edison's 6 plants generate both steam and electricity through a process called cogeneration.
Increase your electricity, you decrease your steam. You increase your steam, you decrease the electricity. And it's very flexible. You can move hundreds of thousands of pounds per hour of steam within minutes. See the stack right here? If you didn't have this heat exchanger here, you'd have 1,200 degree air going out the stack. And here we're sucking it down and we're using as much energy as we can to make steam. Now imagine 8 to 10 feet underground are these big, big steam pipes. The steam generated from this plant goes into those pipes underground and it gets distributed throughout the city. And they go and they tap off and go to a customer, and they feed into the basement of a building. And from there, it's metered, and then it goes for whatever they need. If they need heating, they need cooling, they need sterilization, whatever they need for it.
So, this is where it starts. So Con Edison brings district steam in the street, and it comes down through this pipe. So all of Brookfield Place, all 8 million square feet of retail, office, and the common area, the winter garden that you see in the main area, it all gets fed from our central plant. So it all comes in here, goes up through these pipes over around here, gets metered by Con Edison. They have their meters, and then boom, this is where we pay our bill from these meters. Comes all the way back into this header on this side of things over here. And from here, we take it and we distribute it out to the buildings. So every building, it's 200 Liberty, 225 Liberty, and 250 V's are all buildings, and the Winter Garden that have separate steam distribution, and we provide for them. It's mostly just for heating, for the most part. Hand washing for the bathrooms, and certain kitchens that use it. Some are electric, but most here use steam to actually heat their hot water. So we take this 180-pound steam from Con Edison, we transform it back down. The buildings don't use 180 pounds of steam. So we take it and we transform it basically. I call it transform, it's an electrical term, but in steam parlance, it's reduction, pressure reduction. And we have steam pressure reducing systems, one for every building. Take the 180-pound Con Edison steam, and then that gets reduced down to 60, then down to 15, and it's 15-pound steam that the buildings are seeing. And then from here, we then distribute that and send it up a riser in a low-pressure pipe, and it goes out to the building. The buildings don't see anything more than 15 pounds.
Watch your step.
Yeah, watch your step in here, folks.
Watch your head.
There's another set of steam stations out there, and that's how we distribute it throughout the building. This is the top of, almost directly above where we were down in the steam station. We bring up steam, now we supply 3 other buildings from here. So we took care of 2 buildings already. We already dropped their services off. And now 3 more buildings. So we have what we call a utility tunnel. Our utilities, chill water and steam, and certain electronic stuff, data communication, BMS. But this is the utility tunnel. It makes its way up from P5, the central plant, up that shaft, and then down this way. And now it's going to take its way around, wraps its way around 225 Liberty, and we'll show you the other steam station. This is the outbound pass tube right of this platform underneath. So it's a big network of piping that we have underground here. That's pretty cool. So this is one of the areas that has its own steam station. So we take the 180-pound steam that we distributed, come in here, another pressure-reducing station, albeit smaller than a building, and it's used for basically all the heating coils through all the fans that are located up in the top around there, and we keep this whole place warm in the wintertime. So it's another challenge. You know, heat rises to the top and things, but these guys do a great job, and yeah, we make it work, and it's comfortable. It provides all the comfort, cooling, and heating for this facility.
One of steam's surprising impacts can be found in the shape of New York's iconic skyline.
I've used the example in the past, like when the Industrial Revolution started in England, and the textile mills and all those factories, they needed internal combustion engines to work, and they didn't care about the air. They were billowing up smoke. If you ever see the old pictures of London, you see all the smokestacks. And I always say, when you saw Mary Poppins and you saw Dick Van Dyke with his, he was a chimney sweep, and he's all dark, and the ash, and it was pretty dingy. To clean energy that we have here, where we centralize all that power. Instead of having each building have a power plant, we only have one big building with a power plant. So when you look at the skyline in New York, and you come in and you have that beautiful view of the skyline right in front of you, and no smoke, no emissions. Why? Because none of those buildings have power plants. None of them. They get steam directly from us. And that steam is clean. The water that makes the steam is clean. It's actually drinking water that gets filtered before it even is made into steam. And that steam is distributed throughout the lower from 96th Street down to the tip of the Battery.
So we don't need boilers that way. So there's an issue with real estate for chimneys. We get chimneys up the building. There's an issue with fuel storage, fuel delivery, things like that. So steam is very convenient for us. It's already there and manufactured. All that dirtiness is kind of out of the way.
Space is so expensive here in New York City, and you saw how big that power plant was. If you go to a building, it's not going to be as big as that, but that building is going to require some sort of a power plant, and it's not in the building management's core to be involved with that.
New York's centralized steam system currently only serves Manhattan. Buildings in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island have to rely on other methods.
They use gas, electricity. Some of them use fuel for their boilers, individual boilers.
Despite the benefits of a centralized steam system, there are issues that help explain why most modern cities chose other heating methods. In 2007, an 83-year-old steam pipe near Grand Central Terminal exploded, sending a geyser of hot steam and a 40-story high shower of mud and debris above Midtown Manhattan. More than 30 people were injured and 1 pedestrian died. Despite the benefits of a centralized steam system, issues still arise. These explosions are most commonly caused by a phenomenon called a steam hammer. They take place when steam traps fail to vent water from pipes, creating a cannonball of water that collides with a 90-degree turn inside the pipe.
When you maintain a system this vast, things happen, and you have to maintain it. So if there's a leak around a series of valves, that steam's going to work its way up. Well, in the event that steam gets up, you don't want it to spread out.
And that's where steam stacks come in.
You want to contain inside that stack so that nobody gets hurt. And then it buys time to get the materials and the labor together and go and fix it.
These stacks redirect vapor released through a manhole. And even though they are each used temporarily, they are all over Manhattan.
I used to live in Fidei, and there were always a ton down there. Yeah. There's a lot of construction going on down there.
It's like a common thing down there. to the point where like you have to, if you're driving down there, you have to swerve. There's no lanes. Like it's just swerving through all that stuff.
It's such an interesting place. You know, the career ticks by really quickly. You know, it's cool. If we had to get rid of steam, we'd have to go to all electricity. Electric boilers, electric heaters, maybe point of use of heat pumps, things like that. A lot of infrastructure has to be changed. Piping has to be changed out. You're not going to use piping anymore. You're not going to use steam. We'd also have to determine if the grid within our buildings can handle the extra energy usage on the electricity side versus the steam. It's a significant energy trade-off between electric and steam. If we need to make steam through electricity, it's a lot of energy to do so. And the buildings may not be set up to do that for an easy change.
Yeah, it does. People don't know a lot of things about the city.
Steam looks like it's here to stay, but there is room for improvement.
Sustainability is a big word nowadays, but we've been doing this for years. This plant, from 1926 to probably in the mid-60s, burned coal. We swapped over to cleaner fuels. But that's our backup fuel. We rarely run on that fuel. Our primary source of fuel is gas, very clean methane. That methane is a significant amount of times much cleaner burn than the fuel oil or the coal or the kerosene that has been burned in the past. The technology that we use with the newer units, the gas turbines, where we take the exhaust from a gas turbine and we use that hot exhaust to make clean steam. And then that exhaust comes from a gas turbine that is tuned to the point where it minimizes the amount of emissions that comes out of the gas turbine. So that combination really helps the clean sustainability, the environmentally conscious sustainability of the city of New York.
The centuries-old system must evolve as the city does.
We're looking for electrification. We're looking for carbon capture, whatever carbon that's left from the emissions to capture that.
As we push further into the 21st century, New York City will continue to move toward carbon-free energy sources. But for now, steam co-generated at the city's power plants remains a sustainable option. Few could have predicted that Manhattan's 19th century steam system, inspired by Birdsill Holly's 100-foot steam line, would remain an essential source of heating and cooling for the city today. 1,500 buildings and over 3 million people still rely on steam power. It is and will continue to be a key piece of critical infrastructure for the city.
We want to stay in business for another 140 years. And we've been growing these last 140, and we're going to continue growing for another 140.